Welcome everyone. I know you're just starting to join the Greater Houston Partnerships Houston Business Forum, and we're going to give it a couple of seconds for everyone to connect, and then we will get started. Thank you. All right, well, welcome to another one of the Greater Houston Partnerships online forums. And today we're talking about employment and workforce considerations during this crisis. Thank you all for joining us again. Many of you have participated in our previous webinars this week where we hosted Tim Jeffcoat with the Small Business Administration, and just yesterday, Bob Harvey, President and CEO of the Greater Houston Partnership, was discussing the stay-at-home work safe order. So hopefully you had a chance to join us then. If not, all the recordings of these webinars will be on the Greater Houston Partnership's website and can be referenced at a later date. So before we begin, let me just review how we're conducting today's session. It'll be very similar to the last two if you were on those, and very similar to the way we will conduct them in the future. Many of you are obviously very familiar with virtual meetings, but just to go over a couple of settings to make this a more optimal experience. If you're joining via your computer or a mobile device, you'll be able to see and hear our speakers today and with the screens that they're sharing with you. The controls at the bottom of your screen, chat and the Q&A button, please do use both of those to communicate with us. The chat will be open for the next few minutes so that you can let us know if you're having any technical difficulties, you can't hear a speaker, or for some reason you can't see something on the screen. And the Q&A tab, we really do ask you to put your questions in that tab for our speakers. We'll go through those questions throughout the meeting. There are actual operators behind the scenes that will be answering some of those questions for you. And the presentations may cover them before we actually get to the Q&A portion. So we will try to answer as many of those questions as possible. Again, if we're not able to get to your question or it's already answered in the presentation, we will try to connect with you post-event to address that question, again, if it's not answered. There's also another feature, it's the raise your hand feature. And on the participant button at the bottom, you can click on that, and then you can click on the raise your hand. If you have a question in the virtual world, that is, one of our technicians will be able to send you a private message in chat, or they'll open chat back up and send you a private message and be able to address your question at that point. Also, I just want to share today's agenda with everyone. We are going to get started with just this quick overview. We'll have remarks by the Texas Workforce Commission, Workforce Solutions, and Insperity today. Texas Workforce Commission, Aaron Demerson is the commissioner, and he is he's here today and he'll be speaking to you. Michael Gutierrez, Human Resources Consultant Manager with Workforce Solutions, is also here. And Kelly Yeates is the Vice President of Service Operations with Insperity, and she will also be joining us. So we appreciate them being here today. We'll then go into a Q&A mode, and then we'll close with some partnership resource information for you to take back with you. One thing I want to point out is our website, houston.org coronavirus. Everything, all of our videos will be posted there, but also daily content will be updated on this website. The other email address on this page is member.engagement@houston.org. We encourage you, if you have questions related to this topic or any other topic, to please email our staff. They are actually standing by right now if you have any questions for them. And we'll make sure they gather your information, connect you with the right resources. So those are two great resources, pieces of information that I encourage you to connect to. Also, if you have not had a chance to complete our business survey, I would encourage you to do that. This business survey is for our SME companies, member companies, and the information on it is very important. We are collecting data for the entire region, which we'll be using in a collective effort around advocacy at the state and federal level. So we do ask if you will complete that. Thank you again to our speakers for being here today. I'm going to turn things over to Aaron Demerson with the Texas Workforce Commission, and then we'll follow that with Workforce Solutions and Insperity. So Aaron, I'm going to turn things over to you now.
For the introduction and the opportunity as well. And everybody hear me okay? We're pretty solid in that regard. Good, good. So thank you guys for holding this call and the invitation to participate in your continued dedication and leadership. We know we're in uncharted time, unprecedented times. And so on behalf of Governor Abbott and myself, I want to express our that on this call, not only for your leadership and your investment in our state, not only for what you're doing today, and what we're doing today is very important, but what you've always done, and a lot of you have simply taken care of business. We've done that in Texas in big, big ways, and we've been excited to be a part of that. I have the privilege of serving as the commissioner representing employers, and Governor Abbott appointed me to that position in August of 2019. And so we're excited about what we have. And as I mentioned, an unprecedented time surrounding this COVID-19 situation, but our team's here to help out in any way we can. We have 4 dynamic employment law attorneys. They've joined me today on this call. And so Tommy Simmons is here with me. We also have Mario Hernandez that's there as well, Melissa Chapa and Elsa Ramos, who will be on the call assisting, not only today, but in the future as well. They've been fielding a lot of calls over this past 2 weeks. We've, as you can only imagine, the number of calls from employers, and our goals are to really answer those questions, to do what we can to continue making a difference, to make sure that they have the best information and resources to make the decisions that they need to make. And so I mentioned before, we appreciate the investment in our state, and we appreciate the leadership that's taken place with the Greater Houston Partnership team and the like. And so we've shared a frequently asked question document. Want to make sure that that's out to your membership. It's a document, it's a moving document, and we're trying to stay ahead of the situations as they change. It's been rapidly changing over and over. And so we want to make sure that that document's out there. The boots on the ground are our local workforce solutions office. And so we're excited that Michael's on the line today with us to talk about what they're doing at the local level there. It's very important in regards to the resources that they have. And we want you guys to take advantage of all of their resources. Mike Temple actually heads up that team, and Michael's on the line. Michael Gutierrez is on the call today with us. And I want to briefly highlight a few things that we've done over the past couple of weeks. You know, Governor Abbott waived the waiting period for unemployment benefits. In the past, there was a week-long waiting period, but we've waived that, a 1-week waiting period, but that's been waived. We've also waived the work search requirements as well. And the governor had actually asked for a designation from SBA, and we've been granted that SBA for the economic injury disaster loan program that's out there as well. And so we'll probably be in a position to businesses will be in a position to take advantage of that in big, big ways. One program that's of particular interest is the Shared Work program. And Tommy will talk about that a little bit, but I want employers to really look at that. That's an alternative to layoffs, potentially. It's a program that's been utilized in the past, and we want to make sure that you guys have that information at your disposal to look at as well. A number of initiatives that have taken place here at TWC over this past 2 weeks. The call volume, as you can only imagine, has been tremendous. The team's working day in and day out, taking innovative approaches. And so we look forward to not only answering questions, but making sure that if you have any innovative thoughts and approaches to helping us achieve goals, we stand ready to listen, to take that in, and to move forward with it. All about action in this particular stage. And so we again appreciate the Greater Houston Partnership for putting this on. Carrie and the team, let Bob know that we appreciate his leadership and what you guys are doing in that regard. And our goals are really to help these Texas employers that are here, and we look forward to hearing the questions. And also Dale Robertson has joined us as well. Dale heads up the Skills Development Fund program. He manages the Office of Employer Initiatives over there, and in that capacity, has the skills development program, the skills for small business program, and other initiatives. And I know they're looking at some innovative approaches to doing some things, not only now, but in the future as well. And so thank you guys for the opportunity. I want to quickly move so that we can hear from others and then get to the where the rubber meets the road. And that's the questions that our Texas employers have at this point. So Carrie, thanks a lot for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you, Aaron. We're going to now go to Michael Gutierrez with Workforce Solutions, and Michael's going to bring up a quick presentation for us. And thank you again, Aaron and Dale. Please note that we do have folks that are asking questions in our Q&A section. So Aaron or Dale, if you want to go in there, if you can type a response, or if at the end you can provide a live answer when we get to the Q&A mode, that would be very helpful. So Michael, are you able to bring your screen up?
Yeah, for some reason it's not letting me put the presentation on. Do you mind putting it on for me?
Sure. Let me get over to you. Just one moment, everyone.
And Carrie, while you're doing that, I'll go ahead and mention a hotline that we have here at the agency. It's 1-800-832-9394. Again, 1-800-832-9394.
All right, I believe it was able to come up for me. All right, Carrie, do you see it on your screen?
I do have it on my screen. Thanks, Michael.
Awesome. All right, just to get this started, I really want to, first of all, thank all the leaders in the community for becoming a part of this teleconference. We have some really exciting information to share. I got about 7 slides that I want to cover how we can support you through this turbulent time. I wanted to talk about the economic injury disaster loan and assistance that could be utilized by both small businesses, private and nonprofit organizations that have experienced any type of substantial economic injury due to the coronavirus, and that you're now able to register and apply for low interest federal disaster loans. Now you're going to have an opportunity to get up to $2 million in assistance, and it can be used for anything from payroll, fixed debts, accounts payable, and any other bills that can't be paid because of the disaster impact. Right now it's looking at a 3.75 interest rate for small businesses and a 2.75 interest rate for nonprofits. And you know, this is a fluid situation, so things are constantly changing. I just kind of wanted to give you a real glimpse of what it's looking like if you're needing to apply for any type of disaster loan assistance. The SBA is going to be offering loans long-term up to 30 years to make the repayments a little bit more palatable, but all the terms are going to be determined case by case, and it's based upon each borrower's ability to repay. If you are interested, I am putting some information on the screen. We also have had some handouts that we've sent over to GHP that have this information, the sba.gov/disaster and the phone number. And I also wanted to include an email, and just in case you're having issues getting into some of these phone, to our contacts on the phone. It's very, very important that you guys stay patient and diligent, really trying to let us know and give us feedback about what you're trying to obtain help with. One of the most, I think one of the biggest questions we've had as we've outreached to employers is about the TWC shared work program and how does that work, and how can their business participate. So just giving you everything in a nutshell real quick. You know, we're really looking at the businesses that have slowed down due to this pandemic and have had the need to reduce their employees' working hours. This is an opportunity for you to supplement those lost wages with partial unemployment benefits. Now, what's really, really important is that the work hours in an affected unit, when they have been affected by at least 10%, but not more than 40%. But if you reach out to us, we can definitely talk you through that process and help you identify if that is something that would qualify for the shared work program. Now, the reduction must affect at least 10% of the employees in that unit. So it's really important to keep these things in mind. But I'd rather you reach out to us and let us help you navigate through these waters. And like I said, it is a fluid situation, and we want to make sure you have the most updated information. One of the really special things about this is that the staff, the employees that are going through the shared work program are going to be able to receive both wages and shared work unemployment benefits. And to be honest with you, it really only, it affects your tax rate the same way as any other chargebacks affect. So we don't expect any concern there. If you are interested, it's very, very important that you get a profile set up under Employer Benefit Services. I did provide a link here, and I want to stress to you, I'm going to provide the phone number and the email address if you do have questions. But the people that are finding success getting connected with the shared work program are going on and logging in and creating their profiles themselves. So what I'm going to really suggest is any employers out there that have some really cyber-friendly staff that can help you navigate through these waters, it can really help save some time waiting for that next available customer service rep to get on the call and help you walk through. It's really, really important that we're taking advantage of the technology to help you begin the process. Before I move on to mass claims, one of the things that I do want to discuss with the shared work program, an example of this, to give you an example of how your staff would benefit. Let's say that you have an employee that is working 40 hours and then now it's reduced to 30. If it equates to roughly about a 20% loss in hours, they would get 20% of the 400, I believe it's $400 weekly benefit for each one of those workers. So they would get 20% of that, which is roughly about $80 to help fulfill those lost hours and those lost wages. So I just kind of wanted to give you a scenario. The scenarios are not going to be the same for everybody, but I kind of want to help some of the employers out there that are really wondering how this affects them and how they can participate. Now, unfortunately, when some individuals can't always furlough, they can't always participate in the shared worker program. But I do want to make sure that you understand that the next best thing, if you're having to go through a temporary or permanent layoff, I would really suggest submitting mass claims on for your employees on their behalf. One of the things that you can really do as a leader within our communities and business owners is to help your employees launch to that next opportunity. And when I'm talking to some employers that are really concerned about what they're going to tell their staff, I'm recommending you just need to tell them the truth, because when business picks up, you're going to want those relationships to come back and help you be even stronger than you were before the pandemic occurred. So that honesty is really, really important. And helping do these mass claims for your employees, it really streamlines the process and helps process everything a little faster. I'm not saying it'll happen overnight, but it definitely helps organize all the information you need for your employees. You can always submit a mass claim 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. And I really want to stress that these mass claims and responses to help individuals during layoff situations, we can pair them with virtual presentations on job search services. So if you have candidates that have not touched a resume in years because you've been such a great employer, there's a way for us to help them get those tools and those skill sets to land on their feet just as fast. So if you're going to be interested in any of that, I'm going to give you my contact information at the end. I'd really like to talk to you to see what we can do to provide the best assistance for you and your staff. So if you're interested in getting more information about mass claims, I did provide the link from TWC. You can also reach out to our TWC mass claims coordinator, and I've provided the phone number. But if you want to submit a mass claim and you're comfortable, or you've done this before, because some of the employers that I've talked to, they have really solid relationships with Workforce Solutions where we've helped them at one time or another have a profile within TWC or within Work in Texas. I also provided the link there. But once again, I'm going to suggest you really keep my contact information that I'll provide at the end. That way we can see if we can get you guys the questions that you may have that are fluidly becoming available. The next thing I want to talk about is work in Texas. You know, the landscape of how we recruit, because not every employer is affected in the sense of having to lay off individuals. Some are getting more busier than ever. We're seeing some employers really turn the tide on services that they were providing, and now they're providing other things that are supporting our community at this time. So I want every employer on here to know that Work in Texas is a place that you can come and you can post any of your current, immediate, temporary, part-time, full-time positions across the state of Texas. Some locations are not affected in Texas as much as ours or other locations. And it's really important that you have the way to contact and reach out to those prospective job seekers looking for employment. It also allows you to recruit and connect with candidates that are looking. So for some of us whose businesses slow down because you cannot necessarily bring people on site, Work in Texas is a fantastic way for you to recruit across the state of Texas and connect with those candidates to see if they're ready for that in-person interview or the video conference or whatever way of recruiting that you're going to be handling in the future. But I got to stress to you, because this situation is, once again, I'm going to use the word fluid. We can't tell you when recruiting is going to go back to normal when you have 100 resumes in your office and you can see 25 people in the day without lysoling the building. It's really important that you take a look at this technology and utilize it. And once again, Work in Texas is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so you can recruit in the middle of the night if you need, and that's the only time you have. Speaking of being able to do that, for some of our staff that, once again, have not touched resumes in a long time, they can also upload and build their resumes on workintexas.com for the employees or the job seekers. Or maybe during this time of furlough, you're interested in having some of your staff go to certain trainings to become stronger or to become that next level of worker that can really catapult your company into the future. You can also search for training providers, schools, and educational programs in Work in Texas. And most importantly, you know, there's going to be individuals that need financial assistance. Some may need information on how do they budget while in training or transition. There's some individuals that think the moment that they're furloughed or their hours are cut, they can't operate at your location anymore. Well, it's important that we can assist these employees to let them know that with some fine tuning and some budgeting, maybe even reminding them that your entertainment budget may not be as big because all of the movies are closed and all of these events are closed. They can still find ways to help you and your company continue to operate under the COVID pandemic. Last but not least, I want to make sure you have my contact information. I'm providing my cell number as well as my email address. Locally born and raised, went to the high school for health professions here in the University of Houston. So all I know is Houston in our community. So I want to make a commitment to all of all the employers and leaders on this line that if you need anything and if there's anything I can do to connect you to any type of service or a relationship that can help us move through this as streamlined as possible, I'd like to be that contact for you. So I have provided my contact information on the screen.
Great, thank you, Michael, and thanks for that information. I know we have a couple of questions for you in the Q&A section, so take a look at that and we'll get back to you live in a couple of minutes after we hear from Insperity. But I know shared work is going to be a big interest for a lot of our members, a lot of the business community, and getting people who want to work into jobs that are now available is obviously very important as well. We're going to have Kelly Yeates join us next, and she is the Vice President of Service Operations for Insperity. Very excited to hear, Kelly, what you have to say today. And again, she can answer questions as well after her presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. Good afternoon, everyone. I know your time is twice as valuable now as it was just a few short weeks ago. And I appreciate the opportunity to share just a few minutes with you. We have an internal joke at our company right now that many of us are working half days, and by half days we mean 12-hour days. And I know that's true for most of you as well. So being a leader in times of crisis is not for the faint of heart. If you act too fast, it might turn out you overreacted, and if you act too slow, the business might go under. We all understand that. And as we're going through a global pandemic, an economic downturn, and making tough decisions, it's really a tall order. Here we go. So if you're not familiar with Insperity, we're a national provider of HR and business services. We provide HR-related services to clients nationwide and over 2 million workers across the nation. So what I'd like to share with you today is based off of the many questions and concerns we're hearing from our clients this last few days regarding their workforces. And since our time is limited, I'll keep these to 3 topics. The first is the Families First Coronavirus Response Act that goes into effect next week. I'll also cover some of the compensation-related options that many employers are considering in lieu of layoffs. And I'll share some thoughts on ensuring you maintain the fabric of your culture through your communication strategy during the crisis. So as you all know, President Trump signed the Families First Coronavirus Response Act last week, and it goes into effect on April the 1st and will continue through December 31st of 2020. Eligible employers are businesses and tax-exempt organizations with fewer than 500 employees, and these employers are required to provide emergency paid sick leave and emergency paid family and medical leave. Eligible employers will be able to receive full reimbursement for qualifying leave that they provide while the act is effective. There's a potential for small businesses with fewer than 50 employees to seek an exemption with the Department of Labor if compliance with the act will threaten their business's survival. We're expecting guidance to come out soon on how employers can do that. And additionally, if the employer is a health provider or emergency responder, they may be exempt from the requirements. And finally, the Act requires group health plans to provide coverage for any COVID-19 diagnostic testing with no cost sharing. So let me summarize really quickly. I know amongst our clients, we're hearing a lot of confusion about what they're required to do under the Act. And the Act allows for 2 different types of paid leave for employees who are impacted by COVID-19. The first component of the Act is emergency paid sick leave, and it requires employers to provide employees with 80 hours of paid sick leave, up to specific limits, to quarantine, seek a diagnosis or preventative care for coronavirus, or to care for a child. So that's the first component. The second component of the Act is the emergency family and medical leave, and it requires employers to allow employees to take up to 12 weeks of job-protected leave if they are unable to work due to the need to care for a child whose school or daycare is closed due to coronavirus. So this is job-protected leave, which means the employer must make reasonable efforts to restore the employee to the same or equivalent position. And if those reasonable efforts fail, the employer must make efforts to bring the employee back within a 1-year period if a similar position does become available. And of course, there's an exception process for that too. It applies to companies that have fewer than 25 employees. If you can show that the position no longer exists due to a fundamental change in your operations, then you can be exempt from that requirement. This chart might be helpful here of categorizing the 2 components, I believe. The emergency paid sick leave is effective for the first 10 days, and it's going to pay the full pay or 2/3 pay, depending on the reason, and that's subject to caps. And I'll go over those 6 covered reasons in just a moment. And it's eligible on day 1 of employment. So if someone starts with your business and day 1 they develop a qualifying reason, they're eligible for 80 hours of paid sick leave.
Kelly, this is Carrie. Let me just jump in real quick. Your sound is actually not coming through very well. I don't know if that is where you have to adjust a little bit on your side, but we're not able to hear you. It's very muffled. And I know that you had mentioned you might experience. So if we need to, we may just have to go to a Q&A session, but we'll go ahead and give you a couple more minutes to see if we can adjust it. Does that work?
Sure.
Okay.
Let me know if it sounds any better or worse, and we can see.
Yeah, thank you. It's better for a couple of seconds there. It's much better. Thank you.
Okay, good. So the two components are the emergency paid sick leave, which is effective for the first 10 days, and then the emergency paid FMLA, which is effective basically from days 11 through 60, and covers that week 2 to the end of week 2 to the end of week 12. And there's only one reason that employees can take the emergency paid FMLA, and that is if the employee is unable to work due to childcare being unavailable. And that's eligible for full-time and part-time employees who have been on your payroll for at least 30 days. So the reasons that I mentioned for the 80 hours of emergency paid sick leave must fall under one of these 6 categories. And the first 3 that you'll see on the screen, reasons 1 through 3, are paid at 100% of the employee's regular rate of pay up to a maximum of $511 per day. And then the second 3 reasons, reasons 4 through 6, are paid at 2/3 of regular pay up to a maximum of $200 per day. And importantly, there is a tax credit for employers under the Families First Act. Employers will receive full reimbursement for any leave that they pay in compliance with the Act. And how that will work is that eligible employers who pay sick or childcare leave will be able to retain an amount of their payroll taxes equal to the amount of leave that they paid, rather than deposit those with the IRS. If there are not sufficient payroll taxes to cover the cost of sick and childcare leave, employers can file a request for an accelerated payment from the IRS, and IRS is saying they expect to process those requests within 2 weeks or less. So moving away from the Families First Act, let's discuss some compensation alternatives. So as we become more entrenched in the effects of the pandemic, layoffs are a pretty common go-to measure for immediate cost reduction. But for some businesses, this can be a short-sighted decision. An approach that we recommend with our clients is for business leaders to be clear with their staff about the challenges they're facing, and leverage the intellectual capital within your teams to brainstorm on ideas for how to reduce cost while saving jobs. Some of the options that we see our clients turning to are choices that can be quickly enacted, like pay freezes and hiring freezes. Pay reductions are another option that we're seeing used quite a bit. Some of our clients are taking the approach of what we call a decelerating pay decrease, and so that the lower salary ranges, there is less of an impact, and so you're protecting those vulnerable workers. This might include reducing salaries of your highest paid employees by say 10%, your mid-range employees by 5%, and everyone else at a certain threshold by maybe 2 or 3%. This approach really sends a strong message to employees that senior leaders
Kelly, I'm
Yes.
sorry, I do have to stop you. We're getting feedback that no one can hear you. So it may just be a connection issue, and I just apologize, but I don't think we're actually getting you at all. We are getting your slides though, so thank you for that. So let's conclude this presentation if we can, and go into a Q&A mode. And Kelly, I know that folks will want to hear from you and Insperity. So perhaps we can have you jump into Q&A to answer a couple of those questions typed out. Her answers to your questions will be seen live, and so we'll ensure that that you all get answers to these particular questions. And again, I do apologize everyone for the sound. So Kelly, if you can kind of jump out of your presentation right now, we'll go ahead and start with our Q&A session. And Aaron and Michael, I know that there are some questions that have been added to Q&A. Aaron, you want to take a couple of them and answer live? Do you have your mic on, Aaron?
You are unmuted by, it says you are unmuted by host.
Okay, we unmuted you, thanks.
Good, good. Yeah, so we see the questions up right now, and so we'll take those questions. Let me get up here to do just that. So.
I baked a cake for you, and I was wondering if you could again.
All right, Carrie?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and hit those questions. I'm going to start the video, and we'll answer them right here, Tommy and myself. We'll
all right.
So it says the host has asked you to start your video, so we're going to start that video.
There you go.
All right, and then Tommy and I'll do a little social distances here. So the first question says, I'm looking for more information on the shared work unemployment to see if some employers can choose that to keep the impact low on everyone. So we'll go ahead and hit that, Tommy.
Oh, yes. Basically, and I think Mr. Gutierrez also mentioned this as well, the shared work plan is a very innovative mechanism allowed in Chapter 215 of the Texas Labor Code, whereby if employers work with employees and the TWC to set up a shared work plan for employees who are impacted by a partial reduction in hours between 10 and 40%, they can get a corresponding percentage of their weekly benefit amount if they are participating in that and working the available hours. And if they do that, they will actually end up with more money through a combination of wages and shared work plan benefits than they would if they were just totally unemployed or if they were just working outside of a shared work plan. So it's a good benefit if employees take part in that.
All right, and so we'll hit the second question, and we'll rapid fire these questions so that we can get to others that may come live. It says, if part-time employees are still being paid, even though they may not be performing work, are they still eligible for unemployment benefits? This is a CRHO for San Jacinto College. We have a few part-time faculty apply for unemployment benefits, but we're continuing to pay.
This sounds like it would be an excessive earnings issue. Generally speaking, if they're on paid leave status, they're getting some kind of pay status benefits from their employer. They can't be considered unemployed. So this sounds like something where they wouldn't actually meet the technical definition of unemployed for purposes of our law.
And then moving quickly, it says, if I drop everyone's salaries by 20 or 30%, can they apply for unemployment for the balance or simply choose to quit and apply for unemployment?
And basically that would involve the so-called 20% rule. If somebody has a pay cut of 20% or more, generally that's considered good cause connected with the work for resigning and filing an unemployment claim. Even though it might not be the best, move strategically in the economy, they could still technically do that. But the smart thing to do would be to see if their employer can, work with the TWC and maybe set up a shared work plan, because a 20 or 30% reduction in hours, if coordinated with the TWC and spread across a designated set of employees, that sounds like it would qualify. It would be within the 10 to 40% range that is envisioned by the shared work plan program.
Okay, and Michael, this may come to you. It says, does a system exist that can collect information to help those who have been laid off due to COVID-19 find jobs from companies that are temporarily hiring, i.e. CVS, Amazon, Walmart, etc.? Could a job portal be put up, or should we be directing people to workintexas.com? Mike, I think you talked about that a little bit. You may hit that one.
Yeah, absolutely. There's plenty of companies that are out here hiring. All of those positions are getting put into workintexas.com. If there's an employer on this call that has a handful of people that they would like for us to consider them for those hot jobs, you have my email address, you have my phone number, we can start there.
Thank you, Mike. It says, we have several businesses that have tried to get on the SBA website, but the system is bogged down. will there be additional resources allocated to improve the technology? And so we're not SBA, but we know that just like I mentioned, the systems have been overwhelmed, and this is unprecedented, uncharted waters. And I know they're working hard to make sure that we are in a position to answer questions. We were on a call yesterday with the folks from SBA, and I know they're working emphatically to try to make sure that folks are in a position to get through. And so we're looking at improving the technology here at TWC, and I know they're doing the same thing there. Something that's been mentioned, in these trying times, all of us are practicing a little patience where we can. We understand the seriousness of this, and we're going to be doing what we can to make a difference so that that technology is improved in big ways. And I know they're doing the same thing on their side. We do want to continue to hear from folks if that's not happening, so that we can move even faster if we're not taking care of business. And so the next question goes, can Michael Gutierrez clarify how to use the loan application? We understand that some clients should not apply for some loans due to one level excluding them from future loans broad use of term.
Yeah, I just, while the last presentation was occurring, I called some of my contacts at the SBA, and they told us that there was not any rule that they knew of that was going to exclude them from any future loans. But that is going to be something that we're going to have to connect that employer with the SBA group to begin that loan application process. And leading to the next question, it's also going to be the same place where you can find information on disaster loans. So I don't know if we can share the link that I had in the PowerPoint presentation, or if there's any information that we can share with the individuals on this call, but that's where we'd want to start with the SBA.
Michael, we'll make sure that we share that link on the chat, but we'll also make sure it goes in the follow-up to everyone after this meeting is over.
Awesome.
Okay. And Mike's question was, last part of the question was, where can I find more information on the disaster loan for NPOs, the one that is 2.75%. And so that link will get us there. Another point is, if anybody's trying to get into the system, I know something that was suggested is to look at doing it off hours or so. I know we're looking at different ways as well, but that was something that came out yesterday, that if you're doing it at a certain time period in the morning or night, it may work better when other than the other way. Under the Families First Act, if an employee is unable to work because they must take care of a child, how much must an employer pay them, or how long, and is there a method to get a tax credit?
Is Kelly, Kelly, are you able to join us now? See if we can just talk to you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, and if for some reason your phone breaks up, we'll address the question later with our audience. Go ahead and try that.
Yeah, so I was just typing in the answer to that one. If the employee is out due to needing to care for a child, and that's related to their school or daycare being closed for coronavirus, you must pay that person 2/3 of their regular pay for the first 80 hours that they're out. And then if they need to be out after those first 80 hours, as long as that person has been on your payroll for at least 30 days, then you are obligated to pay them for 2/3 of their pay for the additional 10 weeks.
Okay. And we have one from Yvette. Says, Tom, you want to add anything to that?
The Department of Labor has come out with some really outstanding guidance on this Family First law that was recently enacted. And look on dol.gov. They've got the top link is to COVID-19 guidance, and look for their fact sheets. They've got a fact sheet for employees, a fact sheet for employers, and a frequently asked questions guidance document that answer all kinds of questions with really good answers on the Family First requirements, paid leave and expanded FMLA. So I would recommend that to anybody on the call.
All right. And then it says all employees that have been on the job for 30 days plus. I'm not sure, we may get that question again. It says, any tips on getting through to Texas workforce? Website is not working and offices are closed. We, again, that just trying to get through, trying to continue to get through is what we're doing. And I know our executive director, I was just in a meeting with them this morning, talking about different innovative approaches. We've had a number of folks that are asking to help to alleviate some of the inability to get in. And so we're working hard to move that forward. And I know we're making good progress with that. And so a little patience and we're going to get there. because our goals are to serve all Texans as best we can and as fast as we can. So we're getting there. The workforce offices that are closed, I know though some of those, they're trying to stop the traffic from coming in and dealing with a little bit of keeping in line with what's been established, but utilizing the technology that Mike had alluded to. Mike, anything on your side?
Yeah, absolutely. Our offices are definitely practicing social distancing. So they're not physically open to the public, but there is staff there taking phone calls. So I want to make sure that you guys are connected to wrksolutions.com. That will give you the phone numbers to our most local offices. And I want to make sure that any employer that needs to be served, I can assure you that our employer services division is serving employers, and that phone number is 713-688-6890.
And Mike and that team, they're pro-business and going to work hard to make sure that we're getting through. We've added additional bandwidth as well, and so we're doing what we can to address that so that we don't have the folks not being able to get through. We're working hard to make sure that they are able to get through. It says, seeing a lot of unemployment claims, but are there other fluctuations in the labor market you see coming out of this? Any potential positive movements immediately following this situation? And from my standpoint, I mean, we are right now addressing the situation that we have on hand. I have folks talking about what happens afterwards. There are a number of conversations taking place even there as well. Our labor market team, we have an LMCI team that will be looking at this, and our elected leadership, a number of folks will be looking at things in regards to what's next. So I know those conversations are taking place on both sides. Tommy, anything with that?
Yeah, any companies or technology outfits that offer inventive, effective solutions for communicating over long distances, telecommuting and so on, and support healthcare, those are going to be the real growth demand occupations in the immediate future, dealing with the first effects of the pandemic. The economy is being hit hard, but there are certain industry sectors that are, just well placed to help deal with this, and those are, communications, electronics, high tech, and anything in healthcare, anything that supports those services, those businesses will be hiring.
Mike?
And Commissioner, yeah, definitely. We're seeing some employers that are really getting tested on old rules that they were keeping around, that they now have to take a look at adjusting to. An example of that would be individuals that were requiring in-house signatures or in-house staff. After this, they may realize that there's technology for their staff to now be able to work remotely. Therefore, they will not have to pay rent or have certain utility bills that come along with having staff on location. You're also seeing some employers realize that they're really good at making hand sanitizer or other things that the community is needing. So I want you guys to kind of keep that in mind. Business is evolving, and some of the most successful businesses are riding the wave and seeing how they can serve their community.
Okay, thank you, Mike, for sharing that. This question, I'm not sure if we hit it already, but it says, can Michael clarify how to use the loan application? We understand that some clients should not apply for some loans due to one level excluding them from future loans. Broad use of term. I think we hit that question already. Yeah, okay, absolutely. So we'll move down. It says, seeing a lot of unemployment. Let me do this. For unemployment claims, I'm a reimbursing nonprofit. The amount of claims due to layoffs will be a record level financial crisis for us. Is there any relief for reimbursing nonprofits?
Yeah, under current law, no. And I haven't seen that in any of the proposed stimulus packages. That would require action to amend the Federal Unemployment Tax Act and also the Texas Unemployment Compensation Act. And I don't see that. I haven't seen it mentioned in any presidential declaration, in any declaration from our governor. So reimbursing employers are not eligible for the chargeback protection that is extended to private taxed employers.
And then one other question, some of our small business clients like restaurants can't afford to pay people for 2 weeks. Let me see this, a question about, can't afford to pay people for 2 weeks. Let me get to this question.
It's a 2 weeks, and they're restaurants, and you know, they're just trying to figure out what they need to do at this point.
Right.
Because they're a small business, they can't afford, they're having to, you know, lay off, or I think we might have answered it already.
And Carrie, I was going to say, we're going to be on a call this afternoon with the Texas Restaurant Association.
Okay, great.
That team are spot on with us. And so we're really going to, we'll be visiting with them, and they've been in contact with our office over and over. Great working relationships with them. And we're being innovative in our approaches with them. And we're going to hear a lot from them this afternoon as well.
All right, great. Well, listen, we will wrap things up there on the Q&A session. I just want to thank Aaron, Michael, and Kelly. Again, Kelly's presentation, although we weren't able to complete it, we will have it up and on our website. Any of you that need the full information or need contact information for Kelly, we're happy to share that information with you. So we apologize for that. I also want to just share quickly, as we all depart, we do have, as a reminder, some of the services at the Greater Houston Partnership that are available to all of our members. Our website, of course, and our partnership daily briefing email. We will update news and information and resources every day, and you will get that in your inbox every morning. As well as our LinkedIn group I had mentioned in our webinar on Tuesday. This is a great way if you need something or you have something, please share that in our LinkedIn group, because members are out there indicating they have things that they need, but they also have things that they can share as well. So this is a great exchange site. And a final reminder in our business survey, it is very important for us to try to collect that information from our member businesses to share, to build our advocacy efforts. Thank you all so much for your participation today. We will be conducting these webinars weekly. We have 2 more coming up next week, and we will send invitations out on that tomorrow. Again, thank you, and thank you again to our speakers.